Swimsuit season is right around the corner, and I have been making quite a bit of swimsuits. So I thought I'd share with you all of the different versions that I've made, along with the biggest lessons that I've learned. I'm Mari with Mari Sews, and thanks for hanging with me, you all. So today we're going to talk about the different swimsuits that I made. We're going to quickly run through them all, and I'm going to give you some of the biggest lessons that I learned from each of these. Now, because there is so much here to cover, because, well, I've made a ton of swimsuits, I'm going to make sure to link to the videos where I go more in depth on these up at the top. You'll also be able to find in the description box links to the videos, any classes, any additional materials that I mentioned here. You can find that down there. So don't feel like you have to scramble if you see something that you're like, I would like to know more about that. I got you. First up, let's talk about the Sharon swimsuit by Sirena Patterns. Now, I've actually been following Sirena Patterns for a while now. She started with swimsuits, and so I knew that for my first swimsuit, I was gonna go in her route 100% because that's what she does. And honestly, I was not disappointed. For this swimsuit, I decided to use some stash fabrics that I had. So I used a nylon spandex that I had picked up from Spandex World that had, you know, a considerable amount of stretch. And I thought that it would work out well. And I really had my heart set on a reversible swimsuit for my first swimsuit. Now, if you've been following my swimsuit journey, you know that this swimsuit actually doesn't work out for me. Not only do I prefer more of a full coverage bottom, but this swimsuit rode up on me. And the biggest reason for that, and my biggest takeaway from this swimsuit, is that fabric matters. You really have to make sure that you're getting fabric that has really good four-way stretch in it. This fabric had amazing two-way stretch, but when it came to that vertical stretch, it didn't have the 50% stretch required for the swimsuit pattern. And so that's the reason why every time I moved, this thing was creeping up the back. Making this swimsuit was really fun, and it was nowhere near as hard as I thought it was going to be. Seriously, you all, it's not rocket science. You can make a swimsuit. This brings us to swimsuit number 2, which is this snakeskin one here with the full coverage bottom. This swimsuit in particular came together pretty well. I found that the pattern was actually well drafted, but the pattern instructions, I mean, they were fine. They just weren't as comprehensive as the Sirena patterns. There are a couple of really big lessons that I learned from this one. First off is that the fabric that I used, I believe this one was a rayon jersey. When this thing gets wet, it's extremely heavy and it takes a long time to dry. So that's something to consider. But it also has a shelf bra in here, and it's one entire shelf bra that gets attached into the back. And I found this shelf bra to be pretty useless because it just didn't kind of hold up it didn't hold me up the way I needed it to. This shelf bra might as well have not even been in there. However, the shelf bra that was in the Sharon swimsuit that I first made, I found was really good. And I like the way that they had it sandwiched in between the layers. That way you didn't see it on the inside of your swimsuit. So I knew that moving forward, I was going to start putting that shelf bra on the inside of my swimsuit in between all of the different layers. Okay, so the third lesson that I learned while making this was that it really matters how you pull the elastic and where, actually. And so this swimsuit had you pull the elastic around the curves of the front, the curves of the back, and then you sewed it flat, you know, like a 1-to-1 ratio around the front of your leg hole, but then you pulled it tighter around the back end, which I thought was actually really helpful because it's something that I hadn't really considered, but it really did help with the fit and just to make sure that this thing didn't move anywhere. This cute one is the third swimsuit that I made, and this is also the Minute Maillot. However, I did make those changes in the elastic length and how I pulled it around the edges. And then you can see here, the shelf bra is sandwiched in between all of the layers, so it's not floating around on the outside. I only used the front piece and I attached it into the side seams. You can get more details about that here, but this swimsuit is also fully reversible. With this version of the swimsuit, I decided to try out different elastics to see what kind I like the best. And honestly, I think my least favorite elastic is that clear swim elastic. If you pull that swim elastic too tight, it can get a little wavy. I mean, when it's on your body, it straightens out, so I feel like it's okay. But I really did prefer the braided elastic because you don't get that wavy look. Now you all, I'm not in a swimming pool, I'm not in chlorine every day, so my elastics breaking down isn't the biggest issue for me. But if you are constantly in chlorine, you really need to pay attention to the elastics that you're using because it will break down your fabric and your elastics a lot quicker. I'm telling you this because if you're constantly in a swimming pool, you should really try to source chlorine-resistant fabrics as well as some of that swim elastic. I like the rubber elastic, but try out several and see what you like. And I think the biggest lesson that I learned on this one is that when you're making a reversible swimsuit, it is all about the burrito method. I mean, there were points when I was looking at my swimsuit and thinking, this makes no sense. But then it was just kind of like magic. It all came together. I actually walk you through how to make a reversible swimsuit up here. So if you're interested in making yourself one, make sure you check out that video. Now, before I go any further, I do want to mention that I understand that some people are really intimidated when it comes to sewing a swimsuit. And let me tell you, if you're actually scared to make your own swimsuit, you don't know where to start, you would rather have a little bit of hand holding, I took the Creative Hands Academy class, their swimsuit making class, and it's a class done by Sirena Patterns, and let me tell you, it is really good. This course teaches you how to make a swimsuit, whether it's a one-piece or a two-piece, and it includes patterns for both of them for you. But it shows you how to make a swimsuit that looks extremely professional without having to use any special equipment, just your regular sewing machine. The link to the swimsuit course is in the description box below, and it is my affiliate link, which means that if you use it, I get a percentage of the sales to put towards more sewing. So thank you for using my affiliate link. Now let's talk about some of my hacked swimsuits. So this swimsuit here, this is still the Minute Maillot. However, what I did was I cut out a triangle on that middle section and I used mesh. So you can see there's the mesh. And then I decided to do a mesh back on this one. I really like just kind of like getting in there and cutting things up and seeing what happens. And this swimsuit was really fun. But when it came to the back, it's funny because the mesh that I was using a power mesh. It didn't have as much structure as I would have needed to, you know, keep everything kind of in place and keep it from moving around. So I did line it with a power net, a very firm one actually. But really the biggest lesson on this one was how to use the power mesh that I had here and make sure that it had enough structure for that back piece. And then there's this swimsuit here, which is kind of hard to show you all because it has all these little pieces, but this was another hack. I basically ruched this middle piece and just attached it onto the one side so that it wraps around my waist, and it's just another look, and that one was really fun. This fabric is another athletic type of polyester spandex mix that I had picked up from House of Mami Wada, and it was just really beautiful to sew with. In fact, I think it was actually easier to sew with than any of the other fabrics that I had used. So the hack on this swimsuit was actually inspired by the Creative Hands Academy class that I was telling you about, and it was like all that ruching. If I were to make this swimsuit again, I would include even more ruching. I would just more space so that I can just really scrunch those things in. And so that leads us to the bikini that I made, which is actually this one right here. Now I used a bra pattern that I knew already fitted me. I've already perfected the fit on that one. So I used that with the power net, that firm power net, to give me more structure on this. But then I found this really fun clasp right here, and I just think it really adds a nice detail. I also made myself a pair of bottoms, and this is a high-waisted retro type, but I used my Minute Mayo to hack the lines on this one, and I really do like it. Now let me tell you, there are plenty of big takeaways when making your own bikini like this, especially one with an underwire. Biggest lessons here was, first, start with a pattern that you already know fits really well. And for me, that was my Marlboro pattern. And then I just hacked it to get the shape that I wanted. The second lesson that I learned on this one is that when you're trying to determine the actual shape around the cups or anywhere on this bikini top, make sure that you actually base those pieces in place and do not pin baste, because the moment you secure this thing on with some pins on it, you turn your boobs into pin cushions, and it's not a good idea. Trust me. And then the last lesson that I learned from this one is that even though I used a compression fabric to make this bikini, including the bottoms, this is all compression fabric, I would have preferred to have used my power net and lined it off for a much more smoothing effect. This one I did just leave as a one layer, with the exception of the front where I used power mesh. And I felt like a little more smoothing in that area for me would have made me feel 100 times more confident in these bottoms. So I'm gonna make another pair of these bottoms and just line it all with a power net. Those are all of the swimsuits that I've made, along with the biggest lessons that I've learned. And well, quite honestly, there were quite a bit. If you're interested in making your own swimsuit, check out the swimsuit series here that I did, or check out the course in the description box below. And until next time, I hope that you find joy and have a wonderful day. Bye.